There's a fascinating pasuk in this week's parsha, which I think most of us have probably seen hundreds of times and not realized there's a very big issue with this, with the pasuk. It's not about all the excitement with Kriyas Yam Suf and everything else. It's actually a very hidden pasuk. In Rishon, in the first Liyah, right? We know at the beginning of the parsha says, "Vahi b'shalach parei asa'am," that Klal Yisrael starts to leave. Ayin Sham in Eitan's Josh about why is it Paro? Okay, and Klal Yisrael is leaving, and they left, and they start. Hashem tells them, and then HaKadosh Baruch Hu says something to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says the following: He says, "Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor, Daber Bnei Yisrael, tell Bnei Yisrael that they should go." And then this is the pasuk we want right now. So everyone could, whoever missed that last 2 minutes, this is the part we want. V'omar Paro leBnei Yisrael. Hashem says to Moshe, Paro is going to say to Bnei Yisrael, Nivuchim heim ba'aretz, that they are, Klal Yisrael is trapped in the land. Sagar le'am midbar, and Sagar le'am midbar, that they are stuck where they are, and now it's a good chance to get them. The kasha is, how is Paro talking to Bnei Yisrael? We just said that they left. They're already far gone. What does it mean? What does it mean? V'omar Paro live Bnei Yisrael. Paro will say to Bnei Yisrael, Nivuchim heim ba'aretz. How is Paro talking to Bnei Yisrael? So most people should be right away thinking, what do you mean? It's not to Bnei Yisrael, it's about Bnei Yisrael. That's because you saw Rashi. Rashi says that live Bnei Yisrael means al Bnei Yisrael. Fine. That's what most of the Mefarshim learn. Paro is talking about Bnei Yisrael. However, there's a Targum Yonason who says that no, he's talking to Bnei Yisrael. So how is that possible if everyone left Mitzrayim? So Targum Yonason says that there was 2 members in Klal Yisrael who were still in Mitzrayim even after we left. Who were they? Dasan Vaviram. I'll read the pasuk according to the Targum Yonason. He says, "V'yemar Paro leDasan v'laviram b'nei Yisrael demishtayrim b'Mitzrayim." That Paro will say to Dasan v'Aviram, who are the Bnei Yisrael that are still remaining in Mitzrayim, right? Because the Targum Yonason coming to explain what does it mean live in Israel. Those are the 2 people that are there. So that's great, except there's a big problem with that. Which I see some people are bothered by the kasha. I can see it. Some people are bothered by this, scratching their beards and other things. The kasha is that, how could it be that Dasan and Vaviram are still in Mitzrayim? We saw that already by Makas Chayshech, the Medrash says that whoever was still in Mitzrayim, whoever wanted to stay in Mitzrayim, not to go to Eretz Yisrael, not to go up and go with Klal Yisrael and leave, they died in the Midbar. They died in Makas Chayshech, They were killed in Makas Chayshech. So how could it be that there's anyone still around? And if you're going to tell me that they're not Rishayim, we know for sure they are Rishayim. Right? We know that 4 different things. It says, Rasha lama sakes reyacha, why are you hitting your friend? And they also the ones with the mun, that they left over the mun, that's later on, but they leave over the mun. Also, Dasan Vaviram are the ones who they were fighting, and they also were the ones who caused machlekes with Kairach Vadasai, so they clearly are big Rishayim. So what is it that they, out of all the Rishayim, they weren't part of the 4/5 of Klal Yisrael that were killed in Makas Chayshech? So the Maral Diskin says, incredible Yisaid, he says that the Medrash says, Klape, the officers of Klal Yisrael, the Shaitrim, the ones who were in charge of making Klal Yisrael work, that the Mitzrayim that they had enforced to be in charge. So those Shaitrim, they were Zaych, one thing that they did was they made it sure that the work that Klal Yisrael had to do, they made it lighter. They didn't want Klal Yisrael to suffer so much. So the Shaitrim would take it easier on them, and they wouldn't make them work so hard. And because of that, they received a lot of the punishments. They got hit very hard, and they would get struck by the Mitzrayim. 2 of those people, of the Shaitrim, according to the Medrash, are Dasan Vaviram. So it says the Maral Diskin, because even though they were Rishayim Gemurim Ad Moed, but because of the fact that they did not want Klal Yisrael to suffer, and they took strikes, they were hit on behalf of other members in Klal Yisrael, Hashem says, you're not going to get killed during Makas Chayshech. You're going to live. You can be a Rasha Gamor, but if you're Naisibel Chavera, if you are a person who takes the suffering for another member in Klal Yisrael and doesn't let other people get hurt, and you take it for other members on their behalf, Kosh says, you're someone I want to save. At Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's Levaya, if anyone was there or old enough to be there, I don't know if anyone was. No, I wasn't. Okay. At Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's Levaya, so I wasn't there either. His son, Reb Shmuel Auerbach, that's all, said the following. He said his father always had this following story, was always Shagar B'Fif. He always shared the following story, which is, there was a story, his father used to always tell the story of the Baruch Tam. That the Baruch Tam was in Europe, and he made a shidduch for his son. And the shidduch was with a very, very wealthy, a big veer in the neighborhood. It was very exciting, the big veer's daughter. And at the Erisin, something was a little strange, is that the Baruch Tam didn't seem to be as simchadik as a person should be at their child's engagement party. And the Machatanim said to him, is everything okay? They got nervous that maybe he was having second thoughts about this arrangement. And he said, no, everything's fine with the shidduch. It's just, I'm a little down because the water carrier of the neighborhood, he's very ill. So it's weighing a toll on, it's taking a toll on me. And Agav, the water carrier in general was not the most mechubadik person, and usually wasn't the most intelligent, and it was a very basic job to do. But he felt he couldn't go on with the simcha, and the Machatanim then said to him, they said, okay, understand, it's sad, but this is your simcha. Now's your time to have your own simcha, and you don't have to worry about the water carrier. He'll be whatever happens to him. It doesn't have to be on your focus right now. And the Baruch Tam right away called off the shidduch. And his son did not marry this veer's daughter. And he said, because I can't have my son marry into a family where the focus is not on, another yid's pain doesn't hurt them. If another yid's pain doesn't bother them, then I can't have my son marry into this family. Rav Yaakov Galinsky used to share a following story when in Vilna, what happened was that as the war was getting intense, there was the Germans on one side and the Russians on the other. So a lot of yeshivas had fled to Vilna. To be in Vilna was the elite at that time, for a little bit, was the only safe haven for that little tkufa. So a lot of the yeshivas were there, and everyone was pretty much in Vilna, and people were trying to capitalize on the chance to get a chance to see the Gadol Ador, the Rabban Shekol Yisrael, Reb Chaim Ozer Grudzinski. He was there. So a lot of yeshiva bachrim were setting up times to meet with him. So Yaakov Galinsky felt that this was a great chance to also have a chance to meet Reb Chaim Ozer. So he asked to arrange a meeting with Reb Chaim Ozer Grudzinski. And he said, sure. Tomorrow you're on for 11 a.m. So he says that whole day before, the 24 hours before, he was totally just nervous as anything, but he was so excited. So he kept chazering over what he was learning because he was so ready, he wanted to be ready for any kasha he's going to ask him. And he spent the whole day before and the whole night chazering over his sugya in Yavamis, which was the beginning of Tzaras, the beginning of the Masechta, going back and forth and over until he had the whole Mishnah cold. This, when he gets in there, he'll be ready to go. So finally, he's waiting there by Reb Chaim Ozer's house, and they called his name, Galinsky, come in. So he comes in and he says he had this, such a feeling of nervousness. He walks in, and Reb Chaim Ozer is there, and he's just chazing over the Mishnah as he's getting ready with the Mishnah, ready to go. And as he was ready for the first kasha, the first thing Reb Chaim Ozer says to him is, when was the last time you got a letter from your parents? So he said, it's been 6 months because they're on the Russian side and they're not able to, right now there's no connection between the two countries, so I can't get letters from them. I said, okay. Then he asked him, next question was, do you have a blanket? Not do you have a bed, because it was assumed no one had a bed. Everyone was using the yeshiva benches. But do you have a blanket? At least you'll be warm. And he said, yes, I do. And the third thing Reb Chaim Ozer said to him was, can I see your shoes? Now this, Rav Yaakov Galinsky said he was very embarrassed because his shoes were totally torn up. But Reb Chaim Ozer actually, looked over and peeked over, and he made him lift up the pants a little bit, and he showed him the shoes, and the shoes were pretty torn up. And Chaim Ozer quickly opened up his desk, the drawer, and said, here's money to buy new shoes. And anytime you want, now that you're here in Vilna, you can come to my house is always open to you. And Rav Galinsky said that when he walked out, he started to cry because he chapped that someone cared so much about him, and it had been a while, he hadn't been in touch with his parents, and someone was showing warmth and caring about him. And it wasn't, as Rav Galinsky said, he wasn't asking about the sugya of tzaras ishtai, tzaras bita, which for those who learn Yavamis, that means the co-wife. He wasn't handling that sugya, he was handling the sugya of tzaras Rav Yaakov Galinsky. But he wanted to know about my tzaras, not the tzaras of, play on words there if anyone caught that. Not the tzaras of the tzaras ishtai, rather his own personal tzar, source of, you want to know, that's what Rav Chaim was worried about. Kayadua, there's a famous, it's pretty well known in the Hagdama, there we go, in the Hagdama to Nefesh HaChaim. So in the Hagdama there, Rav Yitzchak Volozhiner writes about his father, about Rav Chaim Volozhiner, and he says something so powerful about this Nakuda. He says that his father, his father's eyes, or Chaim Volozhiner's eyes, were always looking towards Shemayim. L'shatif shem Shemayim b'tzara daklal v'aprat. He was always being mishtatif in thinking about the tzaras of going on personal and tzaras of Klal Yisrael. B'genuchi v'anoches b'shivrin masnayim, with moaning and sighing and yelling and feelings of pain. And if you would hear these moans, they would break the guf of anyone listening. And then this is the key line. He says, he would be constant, give me teichacha on this matter. Al shara she'eineni mishtatif b'tzara da'acharina, that he saw that I didn't properly feel the pain of other people. V'koy ha'devarai elai tamid. He used to say this to me constantly. Shezeh kol ha'adam lo la'atzmei nivra, that the whole purpose of a mensch is not, he wasn't made for himself. Rak lahoyel acharini kechol asher yimtza b'koy chaylases. The purpose of a man is to help other people whatever he can and whatever he can do. That's Rav Chaim Volozhiner, right? The Avi Yeshivas that was famous for also his asmad and his learning, but he said the purpose of a mensch is to feel someone else's pain and to be there for other people. And there's countless stories of Gedolim like this, that the Beis Halevi, when the town was burnt down, it happened many times in Europe. You can find many Gedolim with similar stories to this. But the Beis Halevi's town, when his town was burnt, so it got burnt down. So the Beis Halevi famously did not, his house actually was not, but he refused to sleep in his house during that tkufa until people's houses were rebuilt. And everyone said, please just, the family tried pleading with him, just stay in the house. And he said, no. He would sleep in the yeshiva, had a side room, and he would sleep on the floor, on the floor in the wing of that room, not even with a mattress, because he said, how could I sleep in my comfort of my bed if everyone else is suffering? And you don't even have to go so far into olden times. I think most people are aware of that picture that went around with Rav Yitzchak Kolodetsky, that they found out that throughout the war, he's been sleeping on a wooden plank, on a wooden board, not with his mattress. And he took it off throughout the whole war, saying that Klal Yisrael's B'tzar, how could I be? Rav Yitzchak Kolodetsky, for those who aren't familiar, is the son-in-law of Rav Chaim Kanievsky, and is someone in our door, and he was sleeping on, the whole time without telling anyone, sleeping on a wooden plank. So the question is, what's the makar for this? I wondered this once. What's the makar, and what's the reason behind this, to put yourself in pain? Let's say a person's not going to even know about it. So I wonder, is it a Yiddish azach? Is it a Jewish thing to make yourself have pain and suffering for someone else? So I think something that I think might be the makar is the Gemara in Tainus and Daf Yud Aleph. Gemara in Tainus says, first of all, says many times about here we go, Tainus. Tells many times about this idea of suffering for other people, and it says, Tanya idach, bizman she'atzibur shori b'tzar, al yomer adam eilech lebeisi v'oichel v'eshte v'shal malach nafshi. A person shouldn't say at the time when there's a tsar that, all right, I'm doing okay, I'll go home and I'll eat and I'll drink, and I'm all right. A person should not say that. And then it says, Elo yitzar adam imat tzibur. Rather, you should have tsar with the tzibur when they're b'tzar. And who do we find this from? Who's the makar for this? Moshe Rabbeinu. Shekein matzinu beMoshe Rabbeinu shetzir atzma imat tzibur. Moshe Rabbeinu did this. Where? Shenemar v'idei Moshe kvedim v'yikchu even v'yisimu tachtav v'yeshev alel. By the Melchama, the Malik, that Moshe Rabbeinu sat on the Evan and he had his hands held up during the war. The Gemara asks Lavi's Kasha. He didn't have any pillow or soft thing to sit on to make it a little more comfortable. Why was he sitting on a rock? Ela kacham Moshe hoyel v'Yisrael shruyin b'tzar, af ani eya imam b'tzar. That Moshe Rabbeinu said, if Klal Yisrael is b'tzar, then I have to also be b'tzar. Anyone who does this will end up seeing the Nechama. And the Gemara goes on talking about the beautiful things of feeling with the tsar of another person. Question is, that's l'chayr the makar for Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the inyan? If the person would see it, so then I hear it because you're making him feel better that you're also with him. But let's say the person doesn't know about it, so then what's the point? So I was thinking, could be the Nakuda is that if a person lacks a sensitivity and loses the feelings, the hargasha of when another member in Klal Yisrael is b'tzar and it doesn't affect him at all, so then he's losing that chelik. He's losing he's losing the big picture. Klal Yisrael is supposed to be one guf. Klal Yisrael is supposed to be b'shleimus. We're all supposed to feel connected. Same with you if someone has a sibling or chas v'shalom or a family member that's dealing with a tzara. So in normal situation, it affects the person in a very strong way. But if something from afar, if it's someone who's not connected to his family, it very often doesn't feel it as much. So Klal Yisrael, it's supposed to be one mishpacha, it's one family. And if a person is not feeling the tsar that's going on to another member in Klal Yisrael, then you're missing a huge chilek of what it means to be a member in Klal Yisrael. And unfortunately, I think this is something which could use a lot of chizuk in today's day. First of all, because there's so many people who feel, okay, it didn't happen to someone in my tzibur, in Klal Yisrael, or it didn't happen in my neighborhood. It happens somewhere far away. It's not relatable to me. It's a different country. Everyone feels their own. Everyone has their own little group, their own small group, or their own radius of what they are part of in Klal Yisrael. And then if it's not in his own specific unit, so then it doesn't feel connected to that, which is mamish connected to what we're seeing from Makars and Chazal in the way what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be that anyone in Klal Yisrael, you feel pain for them. And also, unfortunately, we're so rugil to hearing bad things, especially because of the news, that it's very often, unfortunately, does not penetrate. Another person dying, another person this. We're just like it's just another number, and doesn't really hit home. Rav Baruch Ber Leibowitz was when right before his World War II was building up. So he started asking his family members to please share with him every day to give him the Frum newspapers, which was very much not his thing up until then. So he was reading, and each day he was going through the newspaper, and finally one of his talmidim said to him, Rebbe, didn't you always tell us that even the Frum newspapers is not something to read? Like, why is Rebbe getting involved in that? And he said, because up until now, when things are normal, you're right. But now, how could it be that I have to know what's going on with Klal Yisrael? If Klal Yisrael is b'tzar, and I'm not going to feel the tzar, it's a tremendous begam. But then, after a few weeks of this, he stopped. Because he said, Mimarav, if a person doesn't have the proper feelings of tsar for Klal Yisrael, so then if you're reading it, your mamish, it's a huge pagam in you, that you're now reading about their tsaras and you're not even feeling it. He said, but for me, I do feel the feelings, and when I read it, it's too intense for me and I can't handle it, and it overtakes me when I hear about the tsaras of Klal Yisrael, so I can't keep reading this because it was not good for his health. There's an incredible Shuvas Chasam Sefer in Orach Chaim Kuf Samach Vav, where he was asked the following question, the well-known topic about saying Maknisei Rachamim. Right? We know that the piyut of Maknisei Rachamim that we say by Slichos, the question to him was posed is that we know there's a lot of Makaris say not to say it. The Maral writes not to say Maknisei Rachamim because why are we asking Malachim? We should not be Isaac and ask Malachim for help. We should go directly to Kadosh Baruch Hu. So the one asking the kasha though asks a very, very good question. He says, yeah, you're right. We're not supposed to ask Malachim, but then I have a stira. He said, I have a Gemara in two places that say that if a person is sick and he's not doing well, that he should go to a tzaddik and ask the tzaddik to be mispalo for him. The Gemara in two places says this. Go to a tzaddik and the tzaddik should be mispalo for him. So the question was, you see that we do use a shliach. You do use someone else to answer your tefillah. So how could what's the problem with Maknisei Rachamim? So Chassam Sofer says something very, very, very strong. He says, it's not the same. By a malach, you're right, that's a shliach. By another member in Klal Yisrael, that's the same person, that's the same guf. Klal Yisrael is all part of one guf. You're not asking somebody else on your behalf to go be mispalel for you. You're asking your left arm and your right arm to be mispalel for you. That's all one guf. That's not a separate shliach to come along for you and daven for you. So I'm going to end off with a maisa that the Panovich Rav Yosef Shlomo Kahaneman, he used to share with this maisa a lot, that it was about his first encounter with the Chafetz Chaim. He was, very much wanted to meet the Chafetz Chaim, and he traveled. He always was very excited to go to Rad and meet the Chafetz Chaim. He traveled on a train far to get to the Chafetz Chaim's house. He said it was a small little house, and he walks in, and he was told by the Rebbetzin to wait on the couch until the Chafetz Chaim comes. He'll be there in a few minutes. And while he's there waiting, he gets very uncomfortable, because while he's waiting there, the Chafetz Chaim sounds like the Chafetz Chaim's voice. He hears some really intense yelling and screaming upstairs, and he realized there must be some serious tragedy that just happened in the family, and it's not a good place for him to be right now. So he starts getting up to go, and as he's getting up to go, the Rebbe says, "Where are you going?" And he says, "I think I should probably better for me not to. Maybe I'll come back at a different time. It's not probably the best time for me to be here." And she says, "What's the matter?" And he said, I hear yelling and screaming." And the Rebbe said, No, it's fine. This is what he does every day. When he just got a name of someone who's sick, and when he's davening for the sick people of that day, or each day he gets it, this is how he davens for him. He doesn't even know the person that he's davening for, but he's screaming and yelling because he feels the pain. That's just how it is, but it's okay. This is what he does every day. Obviously, that's a tremendous madrega, and it's an avoda, but it's something for us all to keep in mind. There's something an avoda for us, is that we're all part of one unit, and it's an avoda on all of us not to just to think, okay, it's just not to be comfortable and used to all the terrible things, and to feel the tsar of everyone in Klal Yisrael, and to Mitzvah Shem daven for everyone's Yeshuas.
We really hope that you're able to grow and enjoy with this amazing content that we just put together. Do us a favor. Don't just make it about you and me. Share this with the world. Get that Torah out there for everyone to see. Additionally, if you want to hear more, which we hope you do, you can subscribe to our content so that you can be up to date with all of the new amazing Torah that we have here in the yeshiva, pumping it out to you as the Klal.